So this should be quite the interesting matchup. If you've been in the debate community or maybe you've seen High School DxD, you know that scaling the series is quite the headache to do because there's like 30 different ways you could go about doing it, so I'm sure this video is going to be a lot of fun. But I just recently watched the High School DxD anime and was like, hey, this show's actually pretty good. Let me pit Issei up against Ichigo for that Ichigo series that I haven't done in like 2 months or something, so it seemed to all work out in my head. Now, just for some of you guys that may have seen DxD and are going to be like, why aren't you referencing this event that happens in like the novel 20 paragraph 30 or whatever? I'm only using the events that happen in the anime, which is volumes 1 through 10, so if you're gonna reference some weird stuff that happens in like volume 15, I have no knowledge of that. We're using just the anime to keep things pretty simple. And for those of you that may not know how this series works, basically what we do here is we take another protagonist from another anime or another series and we pit them up against Ichigo. We go over their strength, speed, and abilities, and we see how far they could get on the Ichigo gauntlet. So they're going to run through each of Ichigo's forms until either they beat all of his forms or they lose at a certain point. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started by covering Issei's strength. So this is already a huge point of contention because everyone typically scales Issei to about mountain level, because in the first season he quote-unquote obliterates a mountain. The light novel actually says that he just completely obliterates it, although in the anime he just shoots a giant laser beam through it. But people take this as Issei's peak and they're like, okay, this dude is mountain level, he's good to go, awesome, mountain level Issei. But here's the issue with that. This is Issei at the very beginning of the series when he just has the base gauntlet. He hasn't gotten any of his pawn promotions, he can't even use his balance breaker, and he hasn't even unlocked his full potential yet. It would be like saying that Ichigo blocking the Menos Grande at the very beginning of the series is the peak of his strength, and you're like, obviously not. Ichigo hasn't undergone Bankai training, doesn't even have his true Bankai at this point. It's just a very far-fetched claim to make, but this is all that people use because they're like, well, can I use multipliers for Issei because he starts boosting to like ridiculous levels, and does that mean Issei's super powerful? And as far as we're aware, yes, Issei does boost, and the confirmation that we have is that boosts make you stronger and faster. So I don't care if you want to write it off as maybe the author doesn't understand fully how strong Issei should be, and that's how you kind of justify it in your head, but in some of these fights, Issei gets like quadrillions of times stronger, and just off the boosts alone would be like multi-solar system level. And while you may say, okay, well, Issei can get to those levels after boosting for a long time, you know, that doesn't really mean anything in a fight because, you know, who's gonna let him boost this much? And aside from the fact that Issei can do like 30 billion boosts in like 2 seconds, when he gets his full potential, he says that he now has the original power of the Red Dragon and has power he's never felt before, meaning he's now surpassed all of the previous boosts he's ever done. So when Issei does like the 2 quadrillion boost that bumps him up to solar system level, because even if we're being generous, right, and we say that he starts off at mountain level and applies that boost to himself, he would still be like multi-solar system level. So his new base is that strong, and then he can boost on top of that, and with the amount of boosts he gets in like the fight with Cao Cao, he actually pushes into being galaxy level with his new full potential base. I know I'm really like simplifying this here because there's a lot of other stuff that we could get into. Like Issei's base could potentially be like multi-continental, and then he boosts far on top of that with stuff like the Juggernaut drive being a threat to the world, or him being stronger than Seraphel, whose casual sparkles could destroy Japan numerous times over. But I'm just gonna go with the most simple explanation here so that I don't lose a lot of the people that maybe haven't seen DxD. And obviously, if you want to come to my Discord and debate me on a lot of this, we can do that. I actually think that speed is far more contestable than strength is in DxD because Issei and Kiba are peddled as rivals, and it's said that Issei still struggles to fight Kiba because Kiba is so fast, and Kiba is only stated to be the speed of light. Now obviously he could be way faster than that, but this is all we have to go off of, is that he is the speed of light. And I would question if the author actually knows how fast the speed of light is, because if Kiba is someone that Issei struggles to fight and he's only the speed of light, but Issei Issei is capable of boosting like 2 quadrillion times. Even if you were just base human speed, with a 2 quadrillion boost, you would far surpass the speed of light. So we're gonna go with somewhat of a simplistic explanation to try to get Issei's speed. What we're going to say is that once Issei got his full potential unlocked, he and Kiba were even. They were both light speed. Now I know this is gonna be a little far-fetched for some people that have seen DxD. You're gonna be like, dude, full potential Issei, even his new base, is way stronger than Kiba, because Kiba was getting wrecked by Cao Cao's group and Issei obliterated the entire group by himself. But we're just gonna go with this for simplicity's sake. We'll both say that they're just base light speed, and then Issei is capable of boosting on top of that. He does, and depending on how many boosts he does, that would just determine how many times faster than light Issei would be. So if he boosts like 12 times, he would be like 4,000 times the speed of light. It is a massive low ball for his speed, because obviously we've seen Issei get like 2 quadrillion times faster. Then it's like, oh dude, he could be like 2 quadrillion times the speed of light earlier on in the series. And sure, you can still make those arguments, but I'm trying to go with like the safest estimate possible here. There's also some arguments for infinite speed, where Gasper creates this realm of stopped time, and the different Satans, the holy sword wielders, and the dragons are still able to move in that area of stopped time. But I think it's pretty clear that they were able to do that because of how powerful they were, and Gasper's ability really didn't affect them, as opposed to them being able to move in an area of stopped time with their sheer speed alone. There's also the dimensional gap, which some people are like, oh, there's no time in the dimensional gap, it's an area of no time, and them being able to move in that would give them inaccessible speed. But at least in the anime, they don't say that it doesn't have time. We see that Gasper can't stop time with the dimensional gap, so maybe that's a hint to there not being any time, but they don't elaborate why he's unable to stop time, at least in the anime. They do say that there's no laws of physics in there, and that there is no distance, and you could probably stretch that to also say that there's no time, and maybe give these characters inaccessible speed, but I would say that's more of a like highballed estimate for their speed. Alright, so Issei does have a few abilities as well, although 2 of them aren't going to be very useful against Ichigo. I don't know, maybe if we could prove Issei was actually gay, maybe they could work on Ichigo, because the first one is Dress Break, which allows Issei to completely obliterate the clothes of whoever he's fighting, but he only uses them on women. Although if he did use this on Ichigo, I think it probably would work pretty effectively. Like Ichigo is like a pretty modest person, so it actually probably would mess with him. Then there's Boob Lingual, which allows him to like read the minds of his opponents just by like having their tits talk to him, which is, you know, a pretty roundabout way of having a mind reading ability. But outside of that, he has obviously the 2 different gears. He has the Red Dragon gear, which allows him to continually just boost his attack and speed just nigh infinitely. I mean, now Issei's ridiculously capable with it. He used to like die when he boosted too much, but now he's like, yeah, I can just keep boosting and I'll just keep getting stronger and faster as the fight goes on. And then he has the Vanishing Dragon Gauntlet, or at least a piece of it, but that is enough to allow him to continually divide the power and attacks of anybody that he touches, which it was supposed to be that he would divide things every 10 seconds, but if you look at the fight where he's in his Juggernaut drive fighting Balba, he just continually divides the attack that Balba uses against him in quick succession. So either Volley is capping, or he just doesn't want to use it more than, you know, 1 time every 10 seconds because it's damaging to his life, or Issei's just a mega Chad and can just tank through all of that. I mean, it's supposed to half your eternal life, but again, if you have like an infinite lifespan, why do you care if that gets halved? You know, like what's half of infinite? It's still infinite, so who cares? He also has Ascalon, which is an anti-dragon sword. It's pretty powerful, but Ichigo's not a dragon, so I don't see that being all that useful. He has enhanced senses, like he's able to see better at night, and he's able to hear people from a distance. He has this danger sense, like when he walks into that house where Freed is in season 1, as soon as he steps into the house, he's like, yeah, I feel that something is off in here, like I'm already on guard. So he has some danger sense. And then obviously there's the different transformations he can do with his boosted gear. Like he can go into the Knight form to get a bit faster. There's the Rook form that makes him a bit stronger. There's the Queen form, which is his most powerful form to date, but we don't have too much information on them. It's not like, oh, he goes into the Knight form and he gets 100 times faster. He goes into the Rook form and he's like 1,000,000,000 times stronger. It's just like, all right, he's stronger here, he's faster here, Cardinal overall more powerful. And then obviously there is his Juggernaut drive, although there's no reason for Issei to use Juggernaut Juggernaut drive at this point, since he's unlocked the true power of Drake anyway, so it's like, why would he bother going into the Juggernaut drive, risking his own life? But he does have that in the back pocket. So with that being said, let's see how far Issei gets against our boy Ichigo. Alright, so basically I can say with confidence that Issei would beat every version of Ichigo except for maybe Dangai Ichigo in the final arc Ichigo, because at that point those two are contestably like universal, if not higher. Like 1000-Year Blood War Ichigo is definitely infinite in terms of his power. He's able to fight Yuha, who can destroy multiple infinite sized realms, and so Ichigo would have an infinite value for his power. And as much as Issei can boost, currently we don't have any evidence that he can boost into infinities, right? So sure, he could get to any quantifiable number, but he would never hit an infinity. So Ichigo is always going to be stronger than him. And the reason I say Dangai Ichigo is a bit contestable, because if you want to argue that Dangai and True Shikai are like somewhat relative, I'm sure you could make some argument for it also having like infinite power as well, although that's a bit contestable. I'm just throwing it out there, kind of, you know, testing the waters, and, you know, might be making a video on that soon, but just throwing that one out there, right? All the other versions of Ichigo, though, are nowhere near strong enough to fight Issei. Like Fullbring Bankai Ichigo, congratulations, he's stronger than all of the Espada. How strong are the Espada? They're like multi-continental. Yeah, that's not gonna do anything against Issei, who's spawning at like multi-solar system and boost into galaxy level. And then there's the speed, where Issei, even being like 4,000 times the speed of light, is about as fast as a conservative like general estimate for the Huecomundo era characters. Like they're generally in like the thousands of times the speed of light range, and if you want to get higher, like you can get them to like 100,000 times the speed of light, but that's a highball. And if you're gonna highball their speed to that high, why am I not just gonna go highball Issei's speed to being inaccessible? You know what I'm saying? So that's the general gist of how the fight would go down, and there's not a lot of complexities to it, because Issei and Ichigo are both Dragon Ball characters, right? They're just really strong and they're really fast. In fact, Issei modeled a lot of his powers off of Dragon Ball. Like Goku is the person he thinks is the strongest character in all of like reality. He's like, oh dude, I need to make a Kamehameha like attack because Goku's so strong. So I guess that actually works. But yeah, they are just both like brawlic, chatty characters that just keep slamming themselves into their opponents until they win. So it's a pretty easy versus battle to resolve, because it's like, okay, well, who's got the bigger numbers? Okay, Issei's got bigger numbers here, so he wins. In the final arc, Ichigo got bigger numbers, so he wins. So it's a pretty good showing for Issei, considering that we're only 10 volumes in, and there's like, what, like 30, 40 volumes of DD, and then there's like all the spin-off series as well. So he's already beating pretty much every version of Issei. Definitely not beating 1000-Year Blood War. Dangai is contestable. That's pretty good for Issei. But if you disagreed with anything that I said in this video, my Discord is linked in the description. We can have a nice little tussle debate about this video if you want, or you can just come in there to chill, hang out, debate with some other people, you know, maybe strengthen and sharpen your debate skills by heading into the arena, fighting some other people in the Discord, you know. So that's always a thing. I have my other links in the description, like my Twitter, my second channel where I talk about Dokkan and Fate Grand Order and all those other gacha games that I like to play. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace.